Can I really do anything to improve my chances of getting pregnant when I already know one of my tubes is blocked? Blocked fallopian tubes all over the place these days. It seems like so I like to go right for the why. Why are your tubes blocked? Why is one of your tubes blocked? Because that's where Eastern medicine shines. So Western medicine will be like, your tube is blocked. We can either try to blow it open or surgically repair it, or we'll just do IVF and bypass your tubes entirely. Okay. But again, I prefer the way Eastern medicine looks at it, which is the why is your tube blocked? And is there something we can do to naturally help your body open that tube? Or also, hello, I think the most important part is how can we prevent your body from continuing down this path and blocking your other tube, right? Let's look prevention here. So, the most common reason that someone's fallopian tube would be blocked is damp accumulation or phlegm accumulation in the tube itself. So, if you're someone who tends towards damp phlegm, this would look like mostly congealed dampness, which I know is maybe a new term for most of you. Dampness itself is when things are wet in your body, too wet in your body. Long-term dampness starts to accumulate and it starts to harden into phlegm or then nodules or masses. Okay, so sometimes fibroids are also present in people who have a lot of damp phlegm accumulations. But the harder the thing becomes, the more we know the person also has a second pattern of imbalance called blood stasis. So just picture it, right? You don't have to know anything about Western or Eastern medicine. If you have like a glob of goo and it sits there getting worse for a long time, and then your circulation like locks it down to prevent it from spreading bad things around your body, it's just going to become a harder and harder nodule ball, right? And that's how masses form in our body, and that's how blockages occur in our body. So blocked fallopian tubes tend to be, luckily, a little bit more on the earlier side of that picture. So it's like damp, wet goo is blocking like in a sludge fashion. So it's too much dampness is in the tube, but it hasn't formed like a hard mass in there yet. In most cases, it's still liquidy enough to move. So that's good. That means that your body has more of a potential to move it and recirculate it and resorb it, which would be ideal, right? Versus removing your tube or having to do IVF for this reason. So when we look at what causes dampness and phlegm in someone's body and the blood stasis that so often accompanies it, there are a lot of variant reasons. We do have like genetics in Eastern medicine, like you're predisposed to this, right? It doesn't determine what's going to happen to you, but it can set you up to be someone who is more prone to get damp accumulations around their body. So compared to someone else who might be more prone to or more predisposed to a totally different pattern of imbalance. So if you're someone who is predisposed to damp accumulation, you probably have a spleen chi deficiency also. So that's what kind of allows our body to develop this excess damp accumulation and block things and form cysts and mucus pluggy type things, basically, where they don't belong. So the first signs of that you might notice if you look back in time with yourself, you first might have noticed the spleen chi deficiency signs, which would be like, I am fatigued easily. I'm out of breath easily. I have a loose stool. So when you go to the bathroom, your stool is not a nice log that's formed. It's like all loose and messy. You probably have to wipe more than one time when you go to the bathroom, right? You tend to get bloated after you eat. And when you look at your tongue, it's probably kind of on the thicker, puffier end of things. And specifically, the sides of your tongue are what we call scalloped. It's teeth indentations, actually, along the sides of your tongue. That's what happens when you have spleen chi deficiency. Your tongue is one of your muscles, so your muscles lose tone, and your tongue gets like thick and loose and lazy kind of in your mouth, and so it starts pushing into your teeth, and then you get these scallop marks on the side. If you've had that whole presentation going on for a long period of time, that's when it allows your body to accumulate dampness as a result, because your spleen chi is what runs your digestion and metabolism. When that energy is low, it can't transform and expel the waste fluids that accumulate in you from what you're eating and drinking and just general life. So dampness will start to accumulate, and it might accumulate in the surface layers, like in the skin, where you get cystic acne. It might accumulate more in the large intestine, where you tend to have like really stinky, hot, yucky stool all the time. It can accumulate vaginally, where you tend to get BV recurrently, or you always have yeast infections or any like yellowish discharge coming out. all of that would be like a damp heat presentation mostly, but dampness for sure. So these are easy ways, they're quick, early ways that dampness can manifest in you. But over time, if it's left unchecked and we don't resolve those patterns of imbalance, which we can certainly be working to do, if we don't know to do that, then the dampness just congeals and it accumulates and it gets harder and it turns into more substantial phlegm balls. And that's when we get these blockages. And that doesn't happen to everyone, right? You can just be damp and Qi deficient. Doesn't mean that you're going to develop these harder phlegm nodules. So again, we see that part happening mostly in people who have a lot of liver Qi stagnation and liver blood stasis. So that tends to come from stress. Okay, so there is just a lot of truth in the like, if we're not stressed, it's better for fertility. Obviously, of course that's true, but that's not a way to enter the conversation, right? But yes, stress is a hugely contributing factor to things getting stuck in the body. So it could be emotional trauma from the past. It could be a very high stress job. It could be an emotionally stressful job. Any of these things can cause our emotions and then our physical body afterwards to stagnate and not free flow and not express themselves and not be processed out. Whenever that whole thing is stopped and not allowed to do its thing like that, we get stagnation and that just stops things in the body. So if you already have a lot of damp goo hanging around, the stagnation then is what kind of stuffs it into these hard little nodules and then those black things. So when we go through the Cultivate Fertility Program, we check all those things, right? We first say like, how much inflammation do you have in the body? Let's clear that. Let's make sure there's no active infections that are hidden in pelvic inflammation, right? We do that first. And once that's out of the way, then we can look at your actual state of dampness. Like how much dampness is there when you don't have an active infection, like breeding it, right? How much dampness? Is it turning into phlegm or not? So after that's out of the way, then the body isn't so weighed down anymore and so sluggish and so slowed down and doesn't have like heavy weights on it anymore. That's when we can really deal with that liver and the stagnation there, especially when it is related to long-term trauma or old physical injuries or old emotional stress or current emotional stress. That's when the body is ready to release some of that. And that's when certain practices like vibration, for example, can actually be safe and very effective is once we're at that place with your body systems, not before, but then. So there's always an order that we need to work in with the body. And the beauty of working through all of your body's systems in the order that they need to work in is that not only do things just work better, maybe you've tried something before that's in my program and it didn't really do anything. And when we do it in order at the right time, when your body's ready to do that, it works like mind-blowing, right? It's because we're doing it at the right time. And we've done the things first that need to be checked and done and resolved first before we go to the next step, the next body system, the next organ, the next pattern of imbalance. So rarely do I see anyone come in that's like, oh, I just have this one pattern of imbalance and I'm just going to fix that one and then everything's fine. That would be amazing. Okay, I'm not going to say that's never happened or will never happen. But most of us adults in the modern world, we have multiple patterns of imbalance developed and going on at any given time. So that's why having a comprehensive full body system aware program to guide you through step by step is the way that you get the best results. So if you have a blocked tube, let's work on releasing that blockage if possible. Let's definitely work on resolving the pattern of imbalance that created the blockage in your tube so that the other one does not become blocked as well, right? Because there is a reason that your tubes are getting blocked. We do know what it is. And there are things you can do to stop that process and to work the other direction to start resolving it, not letting it just get worse and be unchecked, right? And I think that for you, finding out why your tubes are blocked is going to click a lot of things because you're not just only going to have a blocked tube, right? You're also going to have other signs and symptoms around your body of blood stasis or damp phlegm or both. And that's going to be so clarifying for you to see what's causing all of these like wonky, unwanted signs around your body that Western medicine would certainly say are totally unrelated and random. And we don't know what's causing all that. The coolest part about Eastern medicine is that they do know why everything is happening in your body. And they do see all these wonky things that are actually connected. And once that's unlocked for you, the future is so clear, right? And it's so hopeful because you actually can do something about what's going wrong.